It's Robert Phoenix, and I am back with the Astro Weather. How is everybody? I am just racking up the audio here, and looks like we're good to go. All right, let's do a quick little roll call here. We have a robust 28 people showing up. We got what's interesting is I posted the JPEG last night, and a bunch of people came into chat and left a comment. And then those comments are gone this morning. There are about half a dozen people that had left comments. I'm like, what happened to those comments? Where did they go? Did the comment gremlin take them away? I don't know. In any case, Barbara Boots is batting leadoff today. Jackie Delario, a rainy day in Margate-town. Sounds like the beginning of a novel. It was a rainy day in Margate-town. A friend with many friends in the Philadelphia Archdiocese said our new pope felt he would be the first American pope from a young age. And that prophecy came true. And this pope would be the pope that would tie the strands of all the various countries of the world into a tapestry that Catholicism had not seen since the post-Middle Age era. And thus began the papal reign of Pope Leo the 14th. There you go. There's the start of a historical novel. Liddy Lou getting hot in bikini. Janice Phillips. Cassie Murphy. Hi, Cassie. Double D, Devin Dewar. What's happening, Devin? My guy Ryan's in the house. Yes, come on over to Locals. Locals. Yes, please hit like, subscribe. Hit like, subscribe. Let's shoot a little steroids into my subscriber base. Let's put a little human growth hormone in my subscriber base. Soul Traveler's here. Hi, Soul Traveler. There's the lovely and talented one, saving Austin one tooth at a time. PB, what's happening, PB? Tom Jordan in the house. Kate the Gardener. There's our guy, Zarelith Eternal. What's happening, Steve? Kabuki Theater. Hey, Bo. What's going on? Good to see you. Sicilian Aphrodite. Interstellar Cosmic Conversations with Patricia. Howdy back. Healing Heart Rosie Brandy. Harada. Let's see. A mountain lion showed up on the ranch. Wow. That's pretty cool. I want a pet tiger. Amy Gill's here. There's our guy, Neil Smith from Wisconsin. I met an interesting guy from Wisconsin yesterday. He was a cop. And he became a mortuary director. And I asked him, I said, so at what age did you change careers? And he said 30. I'm like, in my head, that's a Saturn return moment. That is a Saturn return moment. And so I asked him about his cop days. And I said, did you ever kill anybody? I mean, I've always wanted to ask a cop that question. Have you ever taken anybody out? He said no. However, he is now in the business of human disposal, which is a great business. You have a guaranteed customer base, an absolutely guaranteed customer base. Interesting character. kind of a nomad, lives out of his RV, does mortuary from state to state. Wouldn't that be like a profile of like a serial killer too? Because you're always on the go and you've got this cover of being a mortuary guy and you can probably dispose of bodies quite easily. I think that, I don't know. He was an interesting character. Very interesting character. He was a country western music fan. And he was a country western music fan from Wisconsin. It's like, that's interesting. I don't know how big country western is, but he was very disappointed that the country western scene in Kerrville was almost non-existent because there's really no music venues here whatsoever. Anyway, there we go. I asked if today was a good day to make a pricey purchase. Looking for a mattress. Sure, why not? It's Taurus. You want to be comfortable, right? You want to be comfortable. So yeah, why not? God, yesterday I spent a lot of money yesterday. A lot of money. I finally paid my property tax. And the reason it took so long is I had to get it into my name, and I had this whole fiasco with Real ID, and then I had to get the property reassessed because we had an exemption last time, which didn't show up this time. So there was a lot of delay in the air. But it's Taurus. Let's take care of the property tax to get it done with. It was a good moment, though, because the ladies at the little county assessor's office liked my jewelry. So, JJ, if you're watching, they liked your rings. Let's see. Lena Winkler's here. Janine's here. Yes, get a reading. That's what I do. That's what I'm here for. A bull with wings, that is so the energy and process. I'm glad you like that. I decided to go a little chimeric with the JPEG today. Why not? Why not? I could be the Lord and the creator of the JPEG. I am no longer bound by what I need to find as a residual image out there somewhere. Right? And honestly, I got to say, this is just part of the creative process. At night, when I program the show, if I'm looking for a certain image, I could spend at least a half an hour just going through images and trying to find one that doesn't have a copyright attached to it. And it's pretty time consuming. So now I can just, if my imagination and I finally found an AI that has synced up. Like you can do images and not be what's the word I'm looking for? Censorious. Like if I want to do an image of Trump and Netanyahu, which is going to be the theme over on 15 Minutes of Flame, link listed below, it will do it. And before, like I'd use some of these AI creators, and it would stop me because I had certain language. I'm like, fuck that. So I found a good one, and it's worth the time. Kelly, hey, I was just watching yesterday's show, but I'll get back to it since this is live. How did everybody's day go yesterday, by the way? Were you able to stay out of the conflict zone? Because I've heard reports back from other people that the conflict was thick and heavy. In fact, in Joan's world, one of her people walked off the job, which was not it was not a happy thing for her business. So if you had some of those, and we're still in it, man. We are still in this fat T square with Mercury really playing a role here. Not just the sun, but Mercury really playing. So if you had some of those, leave some comments in chat. Let me see what your experience was. People already left comments underneath yesterday's show, and yes, indeed, things got pretty combustible. My man Steve Thor at the door. Sherilyn Grayer. Hi, Sherilyn. Gumbo at the Vatican. I love that. Of course, that's a reference to Pope Leo's Creole connections. Let me just throw that up there, Sherilyn. I like that. Gumbo at the Vatican. I like that. California Contrarian, back again. Susan. Hi, Susan. Stephanie Hunter. There she is. Catherine Rosen. Hi, Catherine. Amy Gill's driving. Listen, there's Darlene. Good morning, all. Irish Day here. Oh, that's more no, NYC. Darlene's Good Day Rising. Brandy Herrera. Kieran. Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I just got a message from somebody that was not a good message. Boy, oh boy. Hey, I'm okay. Save all animals. Go vegan. Well, we're vegan tolerant here, but only so tolerant. You can put you can put your vegan message, but if it is overly insistent, well, there's a place. There's a place for everybody that is overly insistent in chat, and it's not just vegan. But if you're overly insistent with your message, there's a place for you. And it's not in chat. Let's see. Nyla's here from sunny UK. John Bernasconi. Hi, John. Let's see who else we have. Knight of Cups. What's happening, Knight of Cups? Hammer time. Okay, too quick to ignore. I've been considering the funeral biz. Admin sales arena. Probably should start acting on the signs. There you go. That's the ripple effect. This is the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect. A man sits down at a diner bar in Kerrville, Texas, has a conversation with a man who is a cop and became a funeral director, relays the conversation to the internet on his show. Somebody hears that conversation, contemplating a career change, and all of a sudden, it happens. By the way, I asked this guy's birthday, and you always want to know, right? Like, okay, what is a profile of a funeral director? And you probably wouldn't guess the sign, and I wouldn't have guessed it. Well, if I was just looking at him, perhaps I would have guessed it. And he told me that he loved karaoke. So he's a karaoke singing funeral director. And he happens to be a Taurus. So hammer time, that might be another sign. Robert, you feel very perky with Saturn opposing Sun, determined. Well, Catherine, that's true. But it's not that I haven't felt the effects of Saturn opposing the Sun. So I had this experience at the gym probably, I don't know, maybe about a month and a half ago. Still Sun in opposition, Saturn in opposition, right? And it's one of those oppositions where you are theoretically, supposed to feel old or older. And I remember the last time I went through this, it was sort of the beginning of my launching pad into the .com world, just before I was 40. And it was sort of the path to getting married and becoming a father and a homeowner and all that Saturnian stuff, right? So that was different. It was different, just pre-40. But now it's like different. So I was at the gym and I looked around like, my God, all the people here, all the men here are much younger than me. I mean, really stood out. It never really stood out before, but it stood out. And then there were a few women who were there at the gym, right? It was sort of like, I don't know, there weren't 10, but we'll go like a 10-3 ratio. And I thought to myself, if I was stuck on a deserted island with these dudes and those women who were young, I thought to myself, I wouldn't stand a chance. I would not stand a chance. I'd have to be, the fucking hermit that lives somewhere, by himself on the island. Or I thought to myself, I'd have to knock off most of the young men in order to be able to have a connection with the younger women. That's where my brain went. So, Catherine, there you go. That's how Saturn opposing my sun has affected me. All the country artists rap now. I know, man. I know. Rap was cool until about 1990. Then it got really dark. It had that moment of conscious hip hop. Digable Planets, Tribe Called Quest. I kind of like that stuff. But it's just degraded. And now it's infecting country music. It's corrosive. Amy Gill paid hers last Friday. Good for you, Amy. Misbehaving too. Let's see. Alaska Raven. Mary Grether. Hi, Mary, from Down Under. Pretty lazy day. Stayed from everyone. Good for you. That's always a good strategy. Very good strategy. Yes, hit that like and subscribe. Thank you, Ryan. Wellesley and Wells, Somerset. Finally went into conflict with my car finance company. Got a result. They were towing the car, canceling agreement. Almost a year-long saga. Well, good. Good. That's how you want to use the energy. You want to hang in there for the desired result. Take down the man. Conflict Monday from Meow Meow. Lisa Ann White. Hi, Lisa. Charlie from Biloxi. GSS 1123 and 57. I was at a concert. And I was just standing there before the set started and totally lost control of my body and passed out. But I just went right into a dream like I wasn't even at the show. I want those drugs. Give me that drug. Let's see. Meow Meow got into it, the new manager of my apartment complex. Yesterday, no conflict. But did do a 2-hour deep tissue massage. Good. That's one way of dealing with it. One of the perks of being entirely alienated, no conflict. Christine, you have mapped out your psychological terrain. Matt Bird is probably why I live like a hermit in the hills. Very few interactions with the public. I can tell you, Matt. Hi, Robert. What is the symbol for Eris? Eris is chaos. Eris is chaos. Unmitigated chaos. That's the symbolic meaning of it. If you want to look at the symbol for it. We're going to do that right now. We'll bring it up. Okay. So there are two symbols for Eris. Two of them. Let's look at them. You ask, you get. You ask, you get. What Peaches? Your adoring fans want to see you. There you go. There are two symbols for Eris. It's almost like a half of a Pisces Vesica, or almost half of a Pisces, and then you have this rod in the middle, or you have the orb with the arrow pointing down. So there you go. Oh, this is Sedna. That's Sedna. That's Eris. There you go. Sedna, Eris. Sedna, Eris. Okay. All right. Let's do that. Who else we have? Oh, Queen Lisa's in the house. Uh-oh, Meow Meow's got to move now. Isn't moving fun? It's just so much fun. Kubiki Theater, no vegan. Cassandra Lynn, Maya Rose. There you go. We're going to talk about our friend Chris. Thank you, Ryan. An astrologer and a mortician will walk into. Actually, the astrologer was already there. It's the mortician that walked into the bar. And you could tell he liked country. What he really wanted to be a Texan. You could hear the Wisconsin in his voice. He sat down and said, "Howdy." I don't even say howdy. I've been here for a while. I don't say howdy. But if people say howdy, I say howdy back. That's right. We're going to be checking out. Today is astrologically Israel's birthday. So we are going to take a look at what's going on with Israel astrologically and also talk about this interesting wrinkle with Trump and Netanyahu. Some people believe that it's just a smokescreen to supplicate the American firsters. Other people believe there's truly a ripple. I'm leaning into the truly ripple part, and I'm going to show you why. Hi, Esther Swift. Good morning. The birds are singing. I like that. Still Light. Hi, Still Light. Good afternoon to you. You must be somewhere in Europe. Desley had a sore tooth yesterday. Didn't say a lot. Let's see who else we have here. Carol Moore, deep diving into the means. Anyone else? Ryan Upchurch is the one artist that does all genres well. Does rock, rap, country, 1,000% independent. The industry hates it. Well, good. Go out and support Ryan Upchurch. KRS-One spilled some. KRS-One was interesting. Boogie Down Productions. I like the little Boogie Down Productions. Although Chris, also known as KRS, became a cross-dresser. Everybody has the right to express themselves. I left my wallet in El Segundo, famous Tribe Called Quest song. Let's see. Love a cosmopolitan and a death in the afternoon, please. Steve, you cracked me up. Holly Beth just came back from having a dinner, and it was a good beef burrito. No conflict. So you saved your beef for the burrito. Perfect. Isn't Eris conjunct Chiron? Yes. Doug Gross, squeezed Pisces. That's what it looks like. Indeed. Julie Sunshine. Hi, Julie. Sharon Lewis here. Thank you. Explains a lot. Oh, Sharon asked for the symbol. That's right. Maria Donge. Great. Caught the Astro Weather. We're glad you're here. Eris's sister is an Eris. Portnoy's complaint. You know what's interesting about that? I'm going to put this up here. That's a Philip Roth novel, which was very controversial because it displayed Philip Roth's, how do we say this, pornographic mind. And then you have Dave Portnoy, who is kind of cut from the same cloth if you follow Dave Portnoy's personal life. Still Light is in Belgium. That's lovely. Naturally, Mother Earth saw some hummingbirds. Good for you. Eris is the spirit of anarchy. Eris, the spirit of bureaucracy. The Discordian Society, yes. We covered that a while back with Robert Anton Wilson, who's a big heiress guy. Trump and Netanyahu walk into a bar. Trump orders a Diet Coke. Let's see. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? If you listen to some of Trump's older interviews, he does not. And no, he doesn't like him. It's clear. He does not like him. You know why he doesn't like him? Because Trump is an alpha. And Bibi struts around trying to be an alpha. And Bibi is not an alpha. Bibi is a psychotic bully. There's a difference between the two. Anybody else new? Port annoying, yes. Save the beef for the burrito. That's right. I'm here 5 days a week. So I have a funny story. Do you guys want to hear a funny story? Well, at least I thought it was funny. I was at the post office, and I promise I'll get to the weather right after this. I was at the post office mailing a package last week. And it was kind of a bit of a time-consuming process. And I noticed the different stamps, that they have available. And one of them was a Betty White stamp. And I looked at the woman behind the counter who was, I don't know, probably middle-aged, white, overweight, which is par for the course with Kerrville. And I said, Betty White was evil. And you should have seen her. Oh, I said, no, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. And then I looked at the other stamps on the wall. Oh, then she told me that it takes at least 10 to 5 years for somebody to have a stamp named after them. But for some reason, Betty White's stamp got fast-tracked. I'll return to that in a second. And so I was looking at all the stamps available, and there was one stamp that was for some kind of, it was like a cancer stamp. Like if you lick it, it gave you cancer. No, I'm just kidding. No, if portions of the stamp went to cancer research, of course. So I asked her about this. She said, it's a little bit more, but part of it goes to cancer research. And she said, every now and then we have a stamp where some of the money goes to some kind of different medical research. And I said, well, have you ever had a stamp for ED? And she said, no, I can't help you there. I said, well, it's not really for me personally. I said, is the postmaster here? Can I chat with the postmaster? No, I'm afraid you have to go a little bit higher than that. So I was messing around with her. I said, I bet you never thought you'd have a conversation today about a customer asking you about an ED stamp, did you? No. And I said, and then what else did I say? I was like, somehow we got back around to the Betty White stamp. And she reminded me that it got fast-tracked. And I said, well, do you know why it got fast-tracked? And she said, no, why? I said, white privilege. And I got a little smile out of her face. I said, I'll be here 5 nights a week. Don't forget to tip your waiter. She says, oh, my husband thinks he's very funny. He thinks he's a very funny comedian. So, well, you can share my routine with him today. You can see how funny he thinks it is. Stand up for Edie. I like that, Steve. I like that. Salty Cow, what's up, brother? All right. Enough jibber jabber. Let's get into what you're all waiting for. The Astro Weather. The Astro Weather. I'm going to do the old share screen like we did yesterday. I like that. it maximized the image and minimized me just a little bit more. There we go. That's it. Making it a little bit bigger. How about that? How about that? The image just got a little ED treatment. It got bigger. Okay. All right. Tickety tick, talkity talk. The sun keeps coming closer to Uranus. So I said yesterday on Saturday, the energy is gonna be intense, crazy. Right? Talked about seismic activity, and apparently, what's the guy's name? Everybody loves him. He does the solar stuff. Everybody loves him. He said the same thing, that there's this incoming X flare on Saturday, which I did not know about, but astrologically, like I could see it. And the same conflict-based energy is in the air today. Now, the good news is Mercury is separating just a little bit, right, as Pluto retreats, but it's still in there. Right? So we have that fixed T-square right there. Bada bing. And again, like I spent no time on Twitter yesterday. I'm like, nah. I got a light trigger finger today. I'm not going there. So I sometimes have to take my own advice and circumnavigate the tension. But again, I'm telling you, if you want to stand up for something, if you want to make sure that car gets taken back, or if you want to go nuclear on your apartment manager, this is the T-square. I remember one time I did that. My car got towed in this apartment complex, and it was in the spot, my spot. I was livid, and I had a cool relationship with all the girls in the office, but man, I have a nuclear anger switch, which I've gotten much better with over the years. I have learned the art of restraint, and I only press the red button when I absolutely need to. But I have Mars and Cancer in the 8th house squaring my sun. So it's not just your ordinary Mars. It's like, and I went back up there later. I said, look, I apologize. Apologize for the fact that I scared the living shit out of you. Please forgive me. Anyway, this is the T-square that we're talking about. It's still there. We still have this creative energy, though. Neptune, Mars trine right there. And now the moon has moved into position Sagittarius. Ladies and gentlemen, moon in Sagittarius says, don't sweat the small stuff. Do not sweat the small stuff. You can philosophically rationalize not sweating the small stuff. And you know what? That will piss people off more than anything. When you don't fall into their little traps, when they've got their little psychic hooks, yeah, I'm going to get them. And you don't bite, it pisses them off even more. How many times have you seen it? And the moon in Sagittarius is like that. It's like it. You can just, have a good chuckle, a good laugh. And the moon is trying Neptune. Have a good dream. For those of you over in England or down under, where you're literally on the verge of going to sleep, be conscious of your dreams. This would be a night And by the way, here in the States, we'll get some of that too, or in this time zone. This would be a night where you want to be conscious. Just say to yourself, I choose to have wise, expansive, and conscious dreams tonight. Try that on for size and see where it takes you. Say it a couple times, at least 3. 3 is the magic number because you can program your dreams. We got a Mars moon trine. That's also quite good for getting some domestic work done, as always with the moon. In Sagittarius, if you have a farm or homestead, really good day for this. Really good day. If you have some problematic issues in that area, today's a good day to solve them. The moon in Sagittarius lets you kind of look down above your problems and see them from a different perspective. Oh, I never really thought about it this way. Maybe we could just change a few things, get the same result, but we don't have to go through all these other steps. A bit of a cheat code. And have some fun. Like, today's a day. Dedicate at least an hour to having some fun. Leo likes to have a good time. Right? It's about passion, pastimes, hobbies. Sagittarius loves to have a good time. Have a good time. Enjoy yourself. I kind of did that yesterday. I walked into this place where I met the ex-cop, now mortician. And there's these guys sitting at the bar, and I just wanted to go and I actually went there for some comfort food. I don't want to divulge what I ate, but I went there for some comfort food because I was having a comfort food moment. And there's this guy, kind of maybe my age, I don't know, close. And I walked in, and this guy was actually pretty perceptive. And I have these, actually they're like cop shades from the 70s, mirrored, like we're talking chips, Eric Estrada sunglasses, right? So I walk in and I kind of look around, survey the area, and I sit down. And this guy says, you look pretty stressed. He's with his 2 buddies. Let me buy you a drink. You can't really turn down somebody who do that. I said, okay. So I got a light beer. And so thank you. I said, what's your name? Diamond? I swear to God, this guy's name is Diamond. All right. And you can tell he's a professional drinker, but he likes to have a good time. And so I asked him a few questions. And is that really your name? Diamond? He said, yep. So I'm the youngest of 9 kids, and all my siblings, their name was John and George and David. And I don't know why I got Diamond. And I said, well, that's a jewel of a name. You got a chuckle out of that. And I said, what's your last name? And he said, Riley. I said, damn, that's a good sounding name. Diamond Riley. And I said, if you had tits, you could be a stripper. And he laughed. Right? He laughed. He thought it was funny. See, I was me cashing in on that moon. Like I wanted to have a bit of a good time. Like I wanted to have a little bit of fun. And dudes could talk to each other like that. Then he started buying everybody drinks. I'm watching this guy buy everybody drinks. And I said to him, you must have hit the scratcher today. And he laughed. He says, I hit those scratchers all the time. Moral of the story, if you want to have a kid who is lucky and abundant, whether it's a girl or a boy, Diamond is the name. Don't discount Diamond. Unless, of course, you're the Shane Company. All right. What else we have here? We got an exact conjunction with Saturn and Ceres and kind of creeping. They've crept. Saturn has crept into the Grand Trine conversation. Look at that. Saturn's about ready to hit Aries. It's going to be heavy. Saturn Aries is going to be heavy. It'll be interesting, possibly good, but heavy. So this is my read on this. Okay, here's my read. You want to nurture endurance. This is what you want to nurture, endurance. As Saturn moves into Aries, this is a really good time to take up things like weight training. Now, you may want to do band resistance, but weight training, our guy Ryan does rucking, and you can do things like that. You want to build up your endurance because Saturn in Aries is going to be about the long fucking haul. So think about ways in which you can nurture your endurance. We are entering into a period of the hang in there phase. This is the 3-year cycle that, in my estimation, is the equivalent of judgment. It's a time of judgment. Saturn is judgment. Saturn is the judge. Saturn's the Hierophant. Saturn is the Pope. Theoretically, the Pope is supposed to judge, theoretically. And what is Aries? Aries is man. Aries is man. It's the human. And so when we have Saturn in Aries, it is the judgment of man. The last time we had this was the late 90s leading into Y2K. Now, you would say that, well, was that a time of judgment? Yeah, in some ways it was. It was like time is running out, right? Literally, time was running out. All these computers had to be reset. I think Y2K really was a thing. But here we are now, 30 years later, roughly, and we're moving into a new time of judgment. It's a different time. Everything's changed. I once had a dream that the rapture had taken place, and I was left behind. I remember telling that to a guy that I worked with. He was the manager, nice guy, Steve Grady, super nice guy. And he was a Christian. He was into intelligent design and stuff like that. And I never really knew that about him. But I told him the dream. I said, one time I had a dream about the rapture and I was left behind. And he seemed really fascinated about it. And the other day I saw this video. It was 10 strategies to live by if you're left behind. I swear to God, people are making YouTube videos about how to hang in there if you're left behind, right? So it really feels like this is where Saturn and Aries is going. It's a period of judgment. You throw Neptune in there, Neptune always kind of represents the Godhead. It's inevitable. The next 3 years are a time of judgment. And then we have the new land. What's really interesting, they just did this scan of Noah's Ark, the remains of what they think is Noah's Ark, and what they found is very, very different than what they thought they would find. And I find it interesting that this would come up, right? Because what does Noah do? Noah survives a time of judgment. He gets a little whisper from Enlil, hey, you better build that ark, buddy. And the ark is built, and then the rain of judgment comes down upon man. Floods everything. So it's interesting. I'm always fascinated with these kind of synchronistic moments. It's like, oh, Saturn comes into Aries, Neptune in Aries, 3 years of judgment, rediscovering sort of the subatomic structure of Noah's Ark. So there you go. There's your astro weather for the day. I'm leaving you on a light note. Let's see who we're going to talk about today. Oh, yeah, Bobby Darin. Bobby Darin. It came down to either Bobby Darin or David Byrne. And let's do this. And I chose Bobby Darin because I actually think he's more interesting than David Byrne. So let's talk about True Hemp Science first and foremost, then we get around to Bobby Darin. There's a little prop there. This is a vial, tincture bottle of Solara. You can find that on True Hemp Science along with a myriad of other products. CBD, the best CBD you will find on the internet and off. And all you got to do is type in 15MINS. You'll get the goodie bag, the order within the order. You're going to get some of the world famous gummies from True Hemp Science. $150 will get you free shipping, always a 30-day money-back guarantee. There you go. Let's talk Bobby Darin. Bobby Darin is a really interesting character. First and foremost, he shares a similar birth story to Jack Nicholson. Bobby Darin was told that his grandmother was his mother, just like Jack Nicholson. They're born in the same part of the world. Nicholson, New Jersey, Bobby Darin, New York, right around the same time. Like, how many other people were going through that at that time? How many other people were born and their mother was their older sister? He doesn't know this. He will find this out later at a very critical time in his life, which we'll talk about. So let's look at the mother here. This is the moon. Mother is the moon, right? And it's in Aquarius. So this is a strange story around the mother. Hello. And we have an increase. We got a yod actually, but it's like ding, 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 ding. Pluto. What is Pluto? Pluto is about conception. What sign is it in? Cancer. The sign of the mother. This is the broken path. Now, he does have this moon Jupiter sextile, which for him, I think is actually quite good, even though Jupiter is in the 8th house retrograde. And it is in the 8th house, right? So it's hidden. In the 8th house is where conception takes place. So it is the hidden conception, right? Right there, the yod with Pluto. We'll talk about what happens to him with that. He has another yod going back to Jupiter. Now, what's interesting is that he had this sort of torrid romance with Connie Francis. And Connie Francis was born December 12th, which puts her sun right on his Jupiter. And they were madly in love with each other, but Connie Francis's dad forbade her to seeing or being involved with Bobby Darin. So they had a very interesting and very private connection and conjunction. And Connie Francis said that it was Connie Francis. I always get these two mixed up. Hold on. Connie Francis and Connie Stevens. Yeah, it's Connie Francis. Connie Francis said that it was the biggest mistake in her life not marrying Bobby Darin. She's still alive, by the way. So Bobby Darin, double Taurus, and he is cocky from a young age. He has Mars and he has Mercury and he has Chiron, and they're all conjunct. He's a double Taurus, all conjunct in the first house. So one of the songs he's most famous for singing is Mac the Knife, which is the three-penny opera. And for me, knives are always connected to the sign of Aries. Anything that slashes, cuts, and punctures that's blade-like is Aries. And so he has Mars in the first house. And Bobby Darin, even though he's a theoretical steady Eddie Taurus, oh, by the way, Venus-Uranus conjunction in the 12th house is very Connie Francis-like. The hidden and the secret relationship. Now, one of the things about Mars and Gemini, if you've watched the show long enough, you'll know that it is the most restless application and manifestation of Mars. It is always on the move. And if you look at Bobby Darin's musical output, he doesn't stay in any one genre very long. He does bubblegum pop. He does kind of Brechtian sort of jazz ballads. He does show tunes. He gets into a country and Western phase. And then two things happen in his life that shake him to the core. And they all happen right around the same time. He finds out that his birth mother is not his birth mother. And he started to become much more involved in politics. And he winds up joining the RFK campaign. And he's actually in the kitchen in Los Angeles at the restaurant where RFK had shot. And that sends his life into a tailspin. There's a period here where he's very aggressive, very ambitious. He writes songs with Don Kirshner, very young age. They met at a soda shop and works through the Brill Building. And he builds up an incredible amount of equity in songs. He's got like major songwriting, credits. One of his biggest hits was If I Had a Hammer, which was actually written by Tim Hardin. So he didn't write it, but he covered it, big hit. And then Tim Hardin had a hit with the song Bobby Darin wrote. So when he goes through this period, he's got a very tough life. The dude's got a tough life. It's another like Dennis Rodman kind of Grand Cross. But after he has this thing, 1968, he drops out. And he literally goes into that South Node. And he spends a year living in Big Sur around Esalen to find himself. And when he comes out, he becomes basically a protest singer. He goes from being Bobby Darin to Bobby Dylan. And his protest records don't sell very well. And he starts to lose money. And he starts to do all these things to kind of stop the bleeding. The other thing about Bobby Darin, he's actually a pretty good actor. He was nominated for an Academy Award. It was one of those war movies. I think he was in the Sandpipers with Steve McQueen, but that's not the movie he was nominated for. He was nominated for Best Supporting. So you get this eclectic kind of restless nature with Bobby Darin. And he dies young. He winds up going in to have heart surgery, 4-hour heart surgery, and he doesn't make it. I think he's 38 years old. But the thing about Bobby Darin that's really interesting is the amount. There's something about people who die young. And I think somehow they know that they're not going to be here long because they are fucking productive. And they just have a shit ton of content that they create. In the short amount of time that he lived, this guy lived a lot. He married Sandra Dee. He met her on a movie set. They were married for 12 years. They had a son, who I believe his last name was Dodd, D-O-D-D, Dodd Darin. And his son has been kind of instrumental in keeping Bobby Darin's, legacy alive. And there was the Kevin Spacey movie, Beyond the Sea, which is another Bobby Darin hit, which did not do well at the box office, primarily because Kevin Spacey's kind of a creep. And people just said, I don't want to see this. But he's an interesting character. And one of these guys who has a pretty profound musical legacy. And it seems to me like he will be lost in time. But some of those songs that he did, Mac the Knife, is timeless. Absolutely timeless. And he had to overcome a lot of struggle, trials, travails. I think he was cocky because he lacked confidence. You can see that with that Mars-Neptune square, the Mercury-Neptune square. He's kind of a fake it till you make it guy. And he had to fight for a lot of things. He had to fight with Saturn, that Saturn square. But the weirdest part is mother. That's the weirdest part. And you can see it. You can see it with the inconjunct with Pluto. He's a very interesting character, and he's part of America's story. Neil Young, before I leave, said about Bobby Darin, he used to drive me crazy because he was changing styles all the time. But when I look back on his career, he said, I was amazed at the breadth of what he could do and the different genres that he could adapt to easily and well. He's kind of a musical chameleon. You get that with Gemini. Gemini is a bit of a shapeshifter. And double Taurus Bobby Darin, wherever you are, I hope you found your mom and were able to settle it up in the afterlife. All right, there we go. Thanks for being here. There is a link for 15 minutes in the description of the show. We will get into some astrology regarding Israel, their chart, Trump, Netanyahu, the deep re-examination of the relationship between the two of them and the United States with Israel. It's getting hot up in here. Take good care of yourselves. Treat each other well. God bless. Love you all. Robert Phoenix signing off for now.